This video is a brief introduction to the right-hand rule, which we will use to find the direction of the force, velocity, and magnetic field. One important thing to note is that the force is always perpendicular to both the velocity and the magnetic field. So this graphic here shows how we're going to use the right-hand rule in order to find the direction of the force, magnetic field, and velocity. So for a positive charge, we're going to align our fingers with the magnetic field, our thumb with the velocity, and the palm with the force. And for a negative charge, you solve as if it was a positive charge and reverse the directions. So let's do a few examples so you feel familiar with the process. And just as a reminder, that is what variables go with what part of your hands. It is also important to note that since we do our work in 2 dimensions, in order to symbolize into the page and out of the page, we are going to use an X and an O. So this is a positive charge here with a given velocity and magnetic field. We want to find the direction of the force. So if you take your right hand rule and your fingers point in the direction of the magnetic field, all right, and you turn your hand so your thumb aligns with the velocity vector, you notice that the palm is pressing into the page or into the screen. So therefore, we know that the force is into the page. Let's do another example. So here we want to align our fingers with the magnetic field. The velocity vector is pointing into the page, so you have to twist your hand so your thumb points into the page, and your fingers still align with the magnetic field. You then notice that your palm is going to be pointing towards the upper right, so that is the direction of the force. Now we're going to get a little bit more complicated. This problem deals with a negative charge, so whatever answer we get, we're going to need to reverse it. So the magnetic field is pointing out of the page, so our fingers are pointing out of the page. The velocity is pointing to the right, so your thumb is going to be pointing to the right. All right, and so if this was a positive charge, the force would then be pointing down. But since this is a negative charge, we reverse the signs, and our force is pointing up. Let's do one more problem. So if we align our fingers into the page, since the magnetic field is pointing into the page, the velocity vector is pointing down, so our thumb will also point down. We notice that our palm is facing towards the right, but since this is another negative charge, we must reverse the direction and the force is traveling to the left.